Welcome to this episode of Rooted Recovery Stories. I'm Patrick Custer. I'm your host, and I'm so excited for this episode. It's the first of its kind. We are doing what I call the Oprah, post-quarantine Oprah, because she was, I feel like, the first person to do something like this when we couldn't meet in person and do a virtual setup that wasn't just sitting in front of a computer screen. I'm joined here with the one and only Adam Jablin, joining us all the way from where are you right now?
Boca Raton, Florida.
All right. I love it. For some reason, I thought you were
Yeah.
up in the Northeast. Maybe it's the accent.
I got a little Jersey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, it is so great to have you on the show. And welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. And yeah, I'm so excited to get into your story. I know we got to get into a little bit of mine recently, and I'm excited to dive deep into the world of Mr. Jablin. I want to find out more about the purpose and meaning behind the Superman, but I feel like I may be jumping ahead.
No,
So
no. First off, I next time definitely in person,
yeah,
which we did try to do. So let's be upfront about that. That's why we're doing the Oprah effect right now.
yeah.
That's my dad. I'm gonna get to Nashville. And secondly, I want to say, that IG live that we did, man. I don't know if you ever gone back and looked, but you really sparked a lot of people's interest and opened people's minds, not just into recovery, but into the whole, everything you had to go through in the LBGQT, uh, space, let's
Yeah.
say. And I got a lot of positive feedback. It's probably one of the most DMs I've ever gotten.
Wow.
People, yeah. So let me say thank you. It really opened people up.
Well, thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always an honor to share platforms together. And it's just as much of an honor today to have you on mine.
Thank you.
But yeah, oh my gosh.
Like
One of my,
Superman, huh? You want to talk
yes,
Superman?
I want to talk
Okay.
Superman.
So selfishly, as in just the Adam story, my uncle David, he's like a father to me. He had me in a Superman shirt the day I was born. I'm born on his birthday, so I was a birthday gift to him, May 19th. He was a Superman fanatic. He's a director, producer out in LA, and this thing kind of stuck. But as I got older, the ideas and the beliefs and the of what Superman stood for, it just never left. So I had statues, posters, everything, but really it was my sobriety that made me understand what this attraction was. And I used to think Superman was having powers and muscles and all that, but really it's about saving lives. That's what Superman does. He saves
Mm,
lives. And he's got kryptonite, and you and I have alcohol and drugs. But at
yeah.
the same time, if you want to torture Superman, what you do is you say you put Lois Lane over here and you put a bomb in Metropolis over there. And you say you have to pick one.
Ooh.
And Superman can't be two places at once. So, there's a lot of things that I identify in my life with just that would be my torture. That would be
Mm,
just, say I have to be here and I have to be here at the same time. And I don't know if you want to call that an over exaggerated sense of responsibility. Probably younger years have leaned into people pleasing,
hmm.
but I know what my kryptonite is. I know what my weaknesses is. And I think you and I are both here to save lives. So that's my guy.
Absolutely. I love that explanation. Um, that's so great. So all right. I want to rewind all the way back to I like to start at the very beginning. I love you already started. Let's start with the baby and the Superman t-shirt. What family, what world were you born into?
Yeah. So I was born into a really loving Jewish family, although not people, not culturally Jewish, not people that observed being Jewish.
Hmm.
And born in Queens, New York, 1976. And it was a really good, it's a good life. I grew up in Tenafly, New Jersey, which was 5 minutes away
Hold on.
from,
You
yeah,
guys, he's 10 years older than me. I want to look like that when I'm 10, in 10 years. So, I just need to point that out right
Thank you.
now.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's a very kind, very so very kind.
Exactly 10 years. Yeah.
I
So,
appreciate it. I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Uh,
So, but I lived in Tenafly, New Jersey, and if you ever seen the movie Big, it was like that. We were on our bicycles all day. Yeah, you come home when the sun is down. It was a big, open, loving community. And Patrick, the thing that made me feel weird growing up was I was the fat kid. I was the heavy.
mm,
My dad, not knowingly, just teasing me, would call me El Chubbo. There was a movie in the '80s called The Goonies, which was a hit,
mm.
and there's this kid called Chunk, and he would do the Chunk Shuffle. They would make him like ruffle his belly, and my friends would have me do the Chunk Shuffle, and it just bothered me to no end,
I
bro.
can't imagine why.
Yeah,
Gosh. Yeah.
it just cut like a knife. Now the kids were just teasing. They weren't like, it wasn't bullying and all that. I was the chubby kid.
Hmm.
I was the heavy kid, but it also gave me this extroverted kind of class clown, make you laugh with me instead of laughing at me, charismatic young guy.
Beat him to
So
the punch kind of thing.
beat him to the punch, but definitely other oriented, always reading the room, always, worried about who's going to make a comment, who's going to say something, how do I look? So, those things ended up being gifts later. But that was the one thing gnawing at me in my childhood. But other than
Mm,
that, mom and dad, very, very loving. Dad, a driven, successful businessman, but also a cowboy. And I
hmm.
don't mean that as an adjective. My dad he rides the rodeo circuit. He went full ride to Colorado State, riding the
Wow.
Bronco and the bull. Yeah, like a true man's cowboy. My mom was a model from Israel. So, you put a tequila drinking cowboy and a model from Israel, and this is what you get.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But it was great, man. I love New Jersey. And I really had the sweetest childhood.
Mm,
Something that I know you'll identify with me on, because we talked about something similar that happened to you in your childhood,
mhm,
especially with looks. Was I remember I was 10 or 11 years old, and my dad took my sister and I and my mom to go to Washington, D.C. That was like the family vacation. You see the monuments. And this is the
mhm.
only thing I remember of this vacation. It was late, and my dad asked me, do I want to stay up late with him and watch Rocky? And I was like, as a kid, yeah.
Of course.
And it
Yeah.
was Rocky 3, and Stallone in that one was just like shredded. Nowadays everyone looks like that, but
Uh-huh.
back then he was a specimen. Like it was,
Right.
and I remember thinking, if I could look like that,
Hmm.
all my problems would be gone.
Mm.
And that 10, 11-year-old boy made a decision that was true, and it lasted until I was 30.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so when did, we know fear is a primary emotion. And I know for me, dealing with being an overweight kid, there was definitely a lot of things that drove me to, negative behaviors, and unbalanced behaviors from that experience. Would you say that, for you, did that fear come first? Like, were you participating in fear-based behaviors because of being overweight before that? And then did you act on it once you saw that Rocky?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My fear was definitely either my weight or my behavior in some weird way, just feeling I had to be perfect.
Hmm.
Not putting that on anybody. Don't want to say mom and dad were overly strict. No, I don't know what the hell gave me this idea that I had to be right and get it perfect all the time. But somewhere it got installed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. So between my weight and feeling like I had to have the right manners and say the right words and be a good boy, I was operating out of fear at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you do about it from that point? Was it from that point forward? Did you start taking steps to get the result that you wanted to achieve that likeness?
So the fire got lit, and it just so happens right around that time we moved from Tenafly, New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
1986, to Boca Raton, Florida, where you can have your shirt off every day and be at the pool, and it's always hot. And bro, I hated it. And I would wear a t-shirt in the pool and it would stick to my fat. But I always had this idea of
Yep.
what I want. Like, and I remember my mom buying me like plastic weight sets, but I just had this something clicked one day. Like I just couldn't take it anymore. I was sweating. Some kid teased me in Florida. And I just said, that's it. And I remember my mom, we stopped going to McDonald's and I stopped getting my 6-piece chicken McNugget and my fries and my Coke. And she started giving me grilled chicken and apples. I mean, there was no, like back in the day, we weren't as savvy as we are today with nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just as well known. And I started training and pretending I was Rocky. And then before I know it, my mom was buying me Muscle and Fitness magazine and Flex magazine and Muscle magazine. I would devour this stuff in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. And I would just go in and I would just devour these routines. But in 4 short years, especially with what's it called? The change. What's wrong with me right now? I need a cup
Oh,
of coffee.
puberty.
Puberty. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Especially with puberty. Wow. But especially with puberty, in 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to the best built kid in the class.
Mm.
I went from, guys teasing me of like, yo, how many Oreos did you eat last night, Pudge? You know what I mean? To going like, yo, man, how much can you bench press?
Mm-hmm.
And girls liked me. So I was taught, or I was taught that I was right. The
Yeah.
outside matters, right? If I change this, you treat me different.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that didn't change was me. I was still that insecure class clown, let you laugh with me instead of laughing at me guy.
Right.
But with the muscles and the body came this new confidence and coordination, if you don't mind me saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to play with the older kids. I had
Yeah.
skills of the older kids. And the older kids were experimenting with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Nobody had a gun to my head. There was no peer pressure because back then there was something very cool about being with older kids. I
Mm-hmm.
can't explain. It's like they had more freedom
Oh
and they
yeah.
had more opportunity. And if I'm on a bicycle, they have a car. And
Mm-hmm.
if I think this is cool, they have the hotter girlfriend. And there was just something better and cooler about older kids. And now I'm hanging with
I don't think that's ever out of style, for kids. Like they're,
probably.
like if you think about, you're constantly focused on the liberties that you're going to get, when you turn the next age, and what the people above you, what your I don't remember what age it was that I stopped hoping for the next, or get, being so excited for the next birthday. I think it was probably like 24 or 25.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm praying you're right, Patrick. I'm praying you're right because with this new TikTok, Instagram, social media, AI world, sometimes I'm like, does that even exist? Do you know what I
That's a
mean?
great question. But I wanted to draw a parallel, or just highlight something that you mentioned. And I think that so many of us can relate to, regardless of if we had a weight issue or not. If you had some sort of issue on the outside that prevented you from relating to, connecting with people, on a way that made you feel equal to your peers. If we have this self-belief about ourselves that we are other than in childhood, which, you and I have established, like we were both chubby kids, so there was something outward. And not only did we believe that, but we also saw it. And then it was reinforced by what other people said. We had the internal, so we're built for connection with other people and community. And so if we feel that we're separated, we're not going to be able to fulfill that need because of this thing being what you've identified was being chubby, your worth, all that stuff. You then also, how you've described to me, internalize that same thing with how you thought of and loved yourself. And I did the same dang thing. And so when you talk about fixing the outside, you have no idea that this whole inside issue is still going on, because when you get the social reinforcement, everything's supposed to be better.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the lying to ourselves starts. That
Couldn't agree more.
external solution will fix the problem. And even if we don't know there's an internal problem. So anyway, I just wanted to go over that again, because it's like there's two pieces of that, the really essential things that start off in, as a kid. It's like it's the relationship with others and the relationship with ourselves. And too often, even adults go on, into adulthood and not even realizing that, like, at some point there's a fork in the road, and we only started paying attention to that one need, not realizing that the other one, they were both fed from the same problem, but we found solution in answering one.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098, or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.
But you're built, listen, you're built a beautiful bridge for exactly how my life unfolded, because again, right, there's no internal solution. And then when these kids passed the 40 or passed the blunt or whatever the hell I was drinking, that fixed something inside of me I didn't know was broken. And now I matched whatever it did. It fixed it. And now I'm matching the way I look. I don't feel like the insecure fat kid anymore inside.
Yeah.
Now I feel like him.
Right.
Right. So I'm like it's almost like I'm looking down, like I'm totally like, yo, the party is here. And bro, was it ever? I dedicated my life to that feeling. I went to Arizona State University because it was the #1 party school in Playboy and Penthouse magazine, which it was. And I rocked it there and dominated there. And it was, it wasn't just drinking. I mean, it was ecstasy and cocaine and fucking peyote and acid and going out in the desert. I mean, we had a freaking blast.
When did you start all of that stuff?
So I was a drinker in high school, maybe smoked a few joints, but it made me paranoid. And I didn't like marijuana because it gave me the munchies, which would take me off of my diet.
Of course.
So it gave me too much anxiety. Where everyone else was kind of like loose and chill, I was sitting there being like, I don't want to eat. I don't want the Doritos. I hate this. You know what I mean? Or what is she thinking? What is he thinking? Are the cops coming? Yeah, it's just crazy thoughts.
Yep.
So drinking was my thing. But then in college, I don't know. I had a curiosity. I didn't want to learn from someone else's experience. You know what I mean? I didn't want to go, oh, Jim Morrison looks like he's having a fun time tripping. I want to experience. I don't know where I built this. It's okay, but I did.
Yeah.
And I tried to, nothing really bit for me, Patrick, like alcohol. Nothing really bit. So the uppers, the downers, the laughers, the screamers, nothing really took a big bite out of me the way booze did. I could put it I couldn't put it down easy. But I could put it down. But I still had to have my cocktail.
Were you starting to experience consequences yet at this point? Or were you high functioning? Like still getting good grades? And
well, I was never getting good grades.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I would say the consequences are starting, but very, very close to home. Nothing too crazy. So, your girlfriend saying, "Do you remember what you said last night?" Or your best pal being like, "Bro, that was a little reckless."
Yeah.
But then I think my junior year in Arizona State, I got my DUI. So I got pulled over, the red and blue lights, spent 2 nights in jail. So I started realizing something's not right. Something's not right. But all that did was give me that much of a scare. I mean, that's all it was.
Yeah. So did you temper, like, it gave you the scare, but like did you go harder? Did you just continue down the path? Like, like how did things change? Did they change at all for you? What?
Yeah. So, like, nothing, I wasn't so deep back then. I was loving, but I couldn't have even the conversations you and I are having now. So,
Right.
really, what my brain would tell me was, okay, well, you know what we're going to do for the next 2, 3 weeks? We're going to really, really tighten up and sharpen the diet and no booze and just, I didn't have some sort of bright white light experience or something that I'll go into philosophy or start study the Old Testament and New Testament and nothing like that. It was just like, oh, let's just hyper focus on the body because that's what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I'm eating 6 meals a day. We'll make sure I'm having adequate protein. We'll do double cardio. We'll just sharpen up, and then I'll go back to partying like a rock star. It
Right.
Everything was very surface.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that, which is weird because I, I'll ask you. This leads me to a question for you. Do you feel like before you had gotten into drugs and alcohol, um, was do you remember a time where you did go deeper as a younger person, or
Yeah.
was that something? Yeah.
So it happened a few times, bro. My I don't talk about this often, but my great grandfather was a really, really special, I would almost like to say honored, even religious man, but religious in a weird way. Like he studied the Old Testament as much as the New Testament. He was honored in Jerusalem and lit the flame to Yad Vashem.
Oh
And
wow.
I do remember having my mother's from Israel, so we'd go to the Holy Land every year. And you have to realize in Jerusalem, it's not you would think Jews, but it's also Jesus's last steps. And
Oh yeah.
the synagogue is and the Wailing Wall is equal, not more powerful than to a Catholic church here and so you're in this place where all religions are honored and loved.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus was a Jew. And I would have these ideas specifically when I was in shul or if I ever went to shul or where it was like something's not making sense.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was a Jew. The Old Testament only talks about Israel. This guy talks about everybody. You know what I mean? And how
Yeah.
come I don't like I don't think a dreidel and a menorah is as sexy as a tree and Santa Claus. Something's not making sense here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably the as deep as I could go because
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid to ever say, how come we don't believe Jesus is the Messiah? Somebody explain this to me. I didn't want to disturb anybody,
Mm-hmm.
so I would just have these deep, weird thoughts with myself.
Yeah.
And since I couldn't find an answer, go to a movie.
Sure.
Yes, yeah, it was just too much.
Yeah. I think that, oh gosh, the Mormon religion actually has a term for it, and they call it putting it on the shelf. They actually tell people to do that in their faith when they have questions similar. And I shouldn't quote because I'm not a Mormon and I don't really, but this is what I've heard. I'm just quoting what I've heard, and I think that metaphorically, I like to reference that because I'm such a metaphorical thinker that I can relate as well to from the spiritual side of things. That and I grew up so conservative in a Christian family where when you have those thoughts as a child, if you're brought up in any sort of I think probably any sort of spirituality or religion, you're going to have questions about it. And I don't know about others, but I think for a lot of us that are raised in any sort of faith, um, it's frowned upon to draw questions because questions mean that you're not embracing full faith in what it is that you're being taught. And so gosh, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you just mentioned something that for so many of us we don't start answering or seeking until later in life. If we ever do, some people put that on the shelf and never go back and take it off and say, let me find out more about this. As you're going on about your life, seeking that outside solution to an inside problem, what ended up happening to get you to a place of getting better? I mean, what were the consequences? Because I'm assuming you didn't just up and decide to quit.
No, no. You're 1,000% right. So let me fast forward. I'll try to give you a really short rendition,
Okay.
and it will cover really everything. Sincerely,
Yeah.
so I was third generation into the biggest what we call lace empire there was. We designed and manufactured lace, women's intimate apparel, Victoria's Secrets, Hanky Panky, La Perla. So think about Madonna in the 80s, Prince in the 80s.
Hmm.
Fashion. And this was not like, hey, son, what do you want to do when you grow up? This is like, this is who we are. This is what we do. It's kind of like the mafia. So, you go in and it was not like, oh, you're the Jablin, so you get special treatment. This is like, no, you're a Jablin. You have to be first one here, last one to leave. You start as a janitor, then you go to quality control, then you go to yarn inventory, then you got to learn being a mechanic, then you got to learn how to, then you have to go learn the shipping department, then you have to learn how to do inventory, then you got to learn the secretaries, then you got to go up to design, learn how they design the lace, then you can come into the boardroom and understand how all these things. And it was, it was no fucking joke.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was no, two companies, 12-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, especially when you have immigrants working for you because they love the work and they love the overtime. Down here, 3 8-hour shifts, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And these were monsters. And my grandfather, who started the business, I'm going to just give sports analogies, was like Joe Montana, insane.
Hmm.
Dad was fucking Tom Brady, the one guy that could beat Joe Montana. And
Okay.
I'm lost in the shuffle here, trying to be like these guys, drinking around, like drinking. I have anxiety that no one knows. I'm starting to pop Xanax. In this time, I tear my ACL from playing basketball and just doing recreational stuff, squatting too heavy. So I start messing with Percocets and OxyContin and
Ooh.
Darvocet. And meanwhile, I'm supposed to be this businessman. I fall in lust. I wouldn't even say in love. Meet my ex-wife. She hates my drinking, so I have a solution for my drinking: whack-a-mole, more Xanax. But
Mm.
then, I'm slurring my words on the Xanax. Boom! I'll start drinking again. Now I'm starting to mix amphetamines. I'm just become a pharmacist. And Patrick, before you know it, I walk myself right into an intervention.
Mm.
Right. So I am not really seeing how bad I'm getting, but everyone else is.
Yeah. Who was there?
Interestingly enough, my ex-wife, my ex-brother-in-law, my ex-sister-in-law, my mother, who was the one that really got to me,
Hmm.
and my interventionist, who I'm still really, really close with, Michael Walsh.
Mm.
My dad couldn't be there emotionally. It just was too much for him.
Yeah.
My sister felt like there were a lot of people that felt like if they were in the room, I would have just enough. Go fuck yourself. Right? I mean, like, yeah, you think you got dirt on me? I
Yeah.
got fucking dirt on you.
Yeah.
So they chose the people in a wise way. Um,
Something tells me I definitely would like this version of Adam a whole lot more than that version of Adam.
yeah.
um
By the way, I bet you and I drinking and drug would have a blast together, because
oh yeah, true.
that would open me up to this Adam sometimes where we could have deep
That's a
talks and
good point.
talk about spirituality. It
Hmm.
was when I was sober that I was so freaking lost,
Hmm.
and I put all my eggs really into one basket, which was my body, my looks, and my charisma.
Mm.
Right? The business was going to happen. I understand business, but I had to put on this mask that there's nothing fucking wrong with me.
Right.
Nothing wrong with you. I had the whole Charlie Sheen thing down. I'm winning, all that
Right.
nonsense. But
Right.
I was losing. I was a mess. And I walked into that intervention, Patrick.
What was your first thought? Do you
What is
remember?
this? I was like, yeah, what is this? It was before the show and all that. I didn't
Yeah.
really understand it. What's going on here? The interventionist tells me that he's there for me. Hey, I'm here for you. I'm like, here for me. I just met you. You're here, obviously here for them. Don't tell me he was there for me.
Right.
And I knew that the letters really hit home, something really sweet about me, really loving about me. Then they know. And when you hear that in that moment, like, we know.
Hmm.
We know what you've been doing. And you actually think you've been covering it up pretty good.
Oh yeah.
You're so humiliated. You're just, and something sweet again, right? Sweet, we know, sweet, will you get help? And I just couldn't stand the pain in everybody's face, Patrick. It was eating me up. And I was like, of course. Like, I was like, how can I make this go away?
Yeah.
Of course. And then he starts selling me on treatment. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a 28-day treatment. And I just couldn't. That's why I was like, no, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. The other guy comes out. It's like I'm 4 different people at one time.
Right.
The other guy, I'm like, whoa, 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 28 days. I run a multi-million-dollar business. What do
Yeah.
you
You
mean?
guys are overreacting.
Yeah, where are we going to say I went for 28 days? Where did King Adam Jablin go for 28 days? So he sells me on 10 days. And by the way, anyone hearing this, there's no 10-day treatment period. So I hate to ruin it for you. And Patrick, this is July, right? My anniversary just happened, July 14th. And I'm
Oh,
this is my manipulative mind.
yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, 10 days. It's kind of fucking hot right now. You know what a good time would do this would be? Right around Christmas. It's beautiful in South Florida.
Hmm.
The weather's great. It's a great time to tell my employees and everybody I took away my daughter and this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so when do you want to do this? Ready to talk about? I think December's good. And they're like, right now. And Patrick, I kid you not, bro. Like, you and I have had some fun conversation with
Oh
you.
yeah.
I could not understand English. I must have said 10 times right now. Like right now.
The audacity.
Yeah, like right now. What do you mean, like now? Now, or like in a week from now? Like now, right now? Or like right now, like kind of soon?
Uh-huh.
Or I couldn't, like, my brain literally couldn't process what the hell they were telling me.
Right.
And they're like, right now, your bags are packed. I had every excuse. Who's going to walk the dog? Who's going to take care of the baby? And they were like, nope, we're ready. And I remember feeling like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, like, all right, take me to prison.
Mm.
And I got in the car and went to rehab.
Wow. Um, and how long did you end up staying?
28 days.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you ended up staying the full 48 days. So what happened? What was your post discharge? Well, actually, you know what? I want to ask, is there anything that stuck out for you in your treatment process that you'd like to mention that was just transformative in, your foundation, laying your foundation for recovery?
I'll try to break it down to like short stories, like
Sure.
I remember, okay, really short stories. I remember the first time I was following the group and they were saying, "Hi, I'm Dan, I'm an alcoholic. Hey, I'm
Mhm.
Patrick, I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Hey, I'm Michael, I'm an addict. Hey, and I knew that if I had to get out of here, I had to behave and say what these people were saying.
Right.
I remember the first time I said, "Hey, I'm Adam and I'm an alcoholic." Like, first I gagged on it. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And this huge 600-pound gorilla like jumped off my shoulders.
Mm.
And it was like the movie The Sixth Sense, if you remember it, with Bruce Willis. And in
Mm-hmm.
the end, he actually realizes he's dead. And now the whole movie makes sense. I said I'm an alcoholic and addict. And once I said it, I was like, oh, that's why I went to Arizona State University. That's why I got a DUI. That's why I wrote I wrote my wife 30 letters that I'll stop drinking and drugging. That's why I called the pharmacy and I had to have Percocet, Oxycontin, Darvocet, and all the. I didn't know what I was. So there was this quick relief, like, oh, this makes sense. And then it was like, now what? How do I watch football with my dad? How do I go out with clients? How do I see my buddies from Arizona State University? I mean, Patrick, this was a part of my life.
Yeah.
So I remember then meeting my counselor and him asking me if I really thought I was an alcoholic. And I was like, I think it's a little extreme. And him going, okay, well, do you believe that you're powerless over alcohol? And I was like, no, not powerless. I'm not the one that, and him asking me directly, he goes, well, Adam, real fast, have you ever woke up in the morning and sworn to yourself you wouldn't drink that day, but you end up drinking?
Mm.
All the time. He goes, okay. He goes, did you ever make a deal with yourself? Today I'll drink, but I only have 3 or 4. But when you start, you can't stop. I'm like, every single time. He's
Mm.
like, well, wouldn't you call that powerless? Patrick goes, checkmate. I couldn't find any wisdom or charisma or bullshit meter to find a way out of that.
He out Adam'd Adam.
Yeah, he out Adam that. Your life has become unmanageable. So I'm sitting there and I start taking stock of my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
I got some dollars in the bank. I'm running a pretty successful company. I just bought the car I always wanted. You know what I mean? Not bad. Not
Yeah.
bad. And he's looking at me like I'm insane, right? And he bangs on the table. He's like, Adam, you're in rehab, right? And it's like, that's the alcoholic and addict I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in rehab in slippers, debating with him if my life is unmanageable. I'm a lunatic.
Right.
I met this guy, Father Ron Bersha, and he does this thing with me. I'll try to do it as fast as possible, where he asks me to stick my arm out, and he goes like this, and he goes, "You see what I left there, Adam?" And I'm like, "Father, I have no idea." And he does it again, and I was like, "You see what I did there?" And I'm like, "Father, I'm Jewish. There may be a disconnect." He does it again, and I'm like, "Father, I heard about you guys with boys." He starts laughing, and he turns off the lights, and he brings a UV light out. And all of my fingerprints are glowing, Patrick. All my fingerprints are glowing in the dark. He goes, do you think that there's a power around you that you can't see, taste, touch, none of the 5 basic senses, that has been guiding you, protecting you, and brought you here to me now?
Mm.
And this Catholic priest took this Jew from Jersey and downloaded him into the matrix. I was like, I can believe. Nobody ever explained God and a higher power to me. Nobody spoke to me like this. You know what I mean? Can I believe things that are unseen? Can I believe that right now we are using technology that I did not have as a kid? Can I believe that there are solar radar planes? The pilots are not even looking anymore what they do. They're using technology. There are whales speaking underneath the ocean right now to each other. Can I believe that I don't know what's really going on? I can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you start taking these little stories. Patrick, they had a poster up, make the appropriate face with the appropriate motion. I kid you not. Smiley face, happy. Sad face, frown. This way's angry. Right? This one confused. I always was smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want to kill you. I'm smiling. Hey, I think, what I mean? I'm worried. I have anxiety. I'm smiling. Hey, I was broken.
Did you get called on it a lot?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot, because I was full of shit.
Yep.
So these are the things that were happening to me.
Mm.
I had some form of a spiritual awakening, which really, Patrick, it was a form of my ego just totally died. That guy died. That guy just died. And it didn't come in some wonderful, beautiful form and the way Eckhart Tolle was able to sit on a bench for 2 years and just enjoy life. It wasn't like, it was an extreme panic attack where I thought my heart was going to rip out of my chest, mm-hmm. and my brain was going to melt. Like but there was a death that was happening to me. And when I got over that suffering, which is I just don't want to talk too long. I literally, it's called the parallel process. I think you experienced it too, because you said something similar mm-hmm. in your story. Not everyone has, Patrick, what you and I had, but I saw I lived like a movie. Like I saw these 2 visions of me. One is I get to jump in this guy. He's an angry, defensive alcoholic and addict. And I get to say, I'm right, you're wrong. Pick me the fuck up. Get me the fuck out of here. Charismatic and just full of shit.
Yep.
This guy, and there was this guy, and I don't know if he had to be poor. I know if to wear a yarmulke, if he had to be baptized, if he had to wear a robe. But I knew he was sober.
Mm.
And I jumped into that guy with both feet, and I never looked back. I never fucking looked back.
I love your explanation of that. And so many people, I love to hear people's different explanations of that process, that are able to identify it. Because, to me, what you're talking about is the opportunity presenting itself to jump into a sequence of radical acceptance. And I say a sequence because it's not just it's something that has to happen over and over and over, and it works because we do it. But something gets triggered to where we know that we can't just do it once. I can't radically accept this moment being what it is. This is actually a path, and I'm going to have to continue like radically accepting whatever is around the corner. It's a windy road. It's going to take a while. I don't know what's around that turn, but I'm going to do it because this other way is it's not going to work. It's too scary. I mean, it's a jumping off point.
If you remember when we were talking on our IG live, I labeled our talk radical acceptance because maybe it's something I think maybe you made up. It was something that I'd never heard before.
I did not. I would love to say that I made up radical acceptance. I didn't, but when I first heard it, it was life changing for me.
Yes.
Because for those of us who are used to recovery terminology and the 12-step rooms and treatment and what have you, we talk about acceptance. That's not a foreign concept. But when you talk about just adding that word radical onto the front of it, there's something like I almost don't even need to say to you what I mean by saying radical acceptance, because there's this like certain level of, it's kind of like, you've got your heart set at this. I hate to water it down like this, but do you remember ever just something like as simple as where you're going to dinner and, nobody's established what it's going to be, and you've just got your heart set on, whatever it is, and you want to get salmon and whatever else it is, and the group outweighs what you're what you want, and you're just like your foot stuck in the mud, and you're just like, no, I thought for sure we were going to be doing, and it's not just this, like there's this level of acceptance where you're just like, fine, whatever. And then you go along and you do it, like that's the level of acceptance I think we think of when we're just like, okay, fine, I'll go along with it. Radical acceptance is this overwhelming, it's full of desperation. It's, I have no other choice. It's wrought with this visceral meaning and determination to do whatever it takes. And that's where I draw the line between those two definitions. A lot of people might describe it differently, but I think it's so powerful. And that's one of the reasons why I love talking about it in my story and your story, because I believe the people who make it find radical acceptance. Not everybody knows that terminology necessarily, but that light bulb comes on when it's mentioned, just like it did with you. We talked about it. So
I love it. And I actually do believe if you take away the Christianity and you take away, the location of Jersey and Florida in your hometown, and you actually just study, we walked very similar path, with your dad and your mom in the hospital, going to rehab. There was, and you being the good looking guy, but starting as the heavy kid. And, if you really just, and you take all that the little dramas out of it, it's really the same story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool. So gosh, what I want to ask you this, because you work so much in the, we haven't even mentioned this yet, but in your profession now, you're an author, speaker, entrepreneur. I mean, you've done all of these things, and you focus so much on transformation. And I would like to know your definition of both how you would describe addiction and how you would describe recovery. Perfect. That sounds very simple, but I feel like you've got a really great
well, let me first start. Like, I rather people know me through and through, Patrick.
Yeah.
All those fucking things that you and I talk about, like, I gotta tell you, I don't know if I'm getting older or whatnot. Like, I just think there's every single fucking person is an author and a speaker and a coach and the next Tony Robb. Like, I just want to be Adam. Do you know what I mean?
Fair
Like,
enough. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I feel this, you're the same way. You just want to be Patrick. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I need to put another label behind whatever this craft is that we do, podcaster, entrepreneur, leader, I'm going to fucking put a gun to my head. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I just want to be Adam. You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, do you ever get like that? Like,
Overwhelmed. Yeah. Overwhelmed with it all.
really?
Yeah.
Like, really? Yeah. But okay. So addiction. Let's just try to be just simple, right?
Yeah.
Addiction is is hell. It's prison. Make it sit clean.
Mm-hmm.
It's prison. It's hell. It controls you. You don't control it. It's right. You and I know this. It's
Yeah,
scientific.
absolutely.
You and I know it's scientifically proven that alcoholism addiction is a disease. You need 4 qualifications to be a disease. You need to be progressive, you need to be chronic, you need to be primary, not secondary, and you need to be fatal. You take one of those out, you have 3, that's called a disorder. Now we
Mm-hmm.
can go bipolar, ADD, that's fine. And all those are real too. But you add in that 4th element and you mix it all up, that's a disease. That's where alcoholism addiction match cancer. That, you know what I mean? No matter what
Yep.
they say, right? So it's hell, it's prison, it's sickness, it's recovery is freedom, it's liberation. You know, it's recovery is God in a box.
Mm.
You know, it's like from heaven to hell.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's where thank God you and I got radical acceptance, because I
Yeah.
don't for the casual guys that could take normal acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need the Apostle Paul, knocked off his horse thing.
Yeah.
We That's just how you and I are.
Yeah.
You know, we sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Well,
Right.
we need it quick. God
Yeah.
knew that with Patrick and Adam, the slow way, it's just too slow of a drip. These guys are going to go back that way.
Yep.
So addiction is hell. It's prison. It controls you. You don't control it. And recovery is freedom. It's liberation. It's God in a box. And I just like to make it simple for people.
Sure. So looking through that simple lens, what did recovery look like? What did finding solution post-treatment and recovering look like in your life in these past years since, what was it, 30 when you went to treatment?
Yeah, I was 30, now I'm
Yeah.
40. And every year I'm more comfortable in my own skin. Every year, everything gets a little more right-sized, especially God,
Mm-hmm.
because now God's bigger than he gets bigger. The power, she gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful. Because in the beginning, it was, I mean, a meeting every day. My cup of coffee. I gotta share. I'll make the coffee today. I was in love with this thing, but that was everything.
Yeah.
My sponsor was a god. You know what I mean? This guy has that many years. Oh
Right.
my God. But as time goes on, you go, oh, that's just another human being who stopped drinking, drugging, and knows how to quote literature really well. And you start finding your own way. And so things have gotten really right-sized for me. I know what the rooms are. I know what the steps are. I know the steps are a treasure map, but I worship the treasure that you get after the map. I don't worship the map. I have a very, very intimate connection with God. My relationships, you can see that in my relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So every year I feel like I can actually really say, I'm a really clean and sober guy. As a matter of fact, I think the first 5 years, although I wasn't drinking and drunk, you'd be like, he's spiritually intoxicated. I just love this thing. You know what I mean? And I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And
You
by the way, I think there's, if I'm going to really criticize myself, I think there was a part of me that couldn't get enough of hearing my own voice, realizing that I was getting it.
mm-hmm.
I was like, you're asking me to speak? Absolutely. I couldn't get enough. It wasn't the attention, because I loved that they were receiving what I was giving. So it wasn't this like, oh, put me on a pedestal. It was like, I don't think I couldn't get enough that I was getting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That what I was saying was affecting other people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that became unhealthy.
Sure. Well, of course, you take away we're going to find imbalance, no matter what. And I mean, of course, that's what our toolkit's for, to go back to, try and levels out. I want to kind of provoke you a little bit and ask, you talked about when you were in treatment, we know that the substance is but an issue, right? Like, it's not right. So, when you talk about the different emotions, and, you're talking about, oh, I want to freaking kill you, but you're doing it with a smile on your face. What does it look like? Do you still struggle with that, of wanting to stay in a place of the outward emotion that is what you believe is the appropriate one you think others want or need to see or feel? Or have you gotten to the place where you feel more at home in your emotions, embracing them and displaying exactly what they are when you're having them?
I would say about 250 days of the year, I'm on point
Yeah.
and really show you who I am. But that the leftover 100, let's say 100 and 365 minus 150, so whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
100, that's where that other guy comes out and sometimes wants people to think that I haven't made, or that I'm not affected, or that I'm, cooler than a cucumber, and whatever that, or putting on a smile. And it that's when I really have to do the work. And I have to buckle down on prayer, meditation, honesty,
Mm-hmm.
sharing it with my mentor, an outside reference, getting to the root cause of it. Because that's my bullshit meter is not, let me show you how aggressive I can be. My bullshit thing is, let me show you how nice I can be while
Right.
I make you feel that, if you push me one extra step, I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah. It's
That's
a
the definition
protecting.
of passive aggressive. That's the
Exactly.
definition of an asshole.
It's protecting the codependency is born out of fear, and then what you're talking about is protecting that primary emotion of fear, right? Like, so I'm going to be codependent out of fear, but I also don't. I'm also gonna keep that, and I'm gonna keep it for myself because it's protecting the underlying part that I don't want to deal with. How do you catch yourself? How do you like, what do you do in that moment? What is your plate like? Do you spin out to a place where it just gets bad enough to where you're like, oh my God, I'm here again? And I'm because I know I deal with that. I mean, I've got uh I've got so many mechanisms that I have to go to, that catch me, because this is stuff, honestly, outside of AA, right? Like, that's dealing with codependency is, in my opinion, that, like, I have to deal. That's an outside issue for me.
Yeah. Look, I am a big advocate for outside help when
Yes.
you realize that right, do your homework, because everybody in the world now wants to offer outside help. So do your
Yeah.
homework. But if it's therapy, if it's a coach, if it's finding a new mentor, if it's like you said, taking what you put on the shelf, maybe taking it off and going, maybe there is something to this religion thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of deal, whatever that outside, if it's a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it's us just getting a cup of coffee, if it's for that day, it's actually a workout. Now, you and I probably have abused that privilege, but if for that day it's a 10-mile run, but whatever that modality is, and that's a big difference, a modality to heal compared to trying to find something from the outside,
Yes.
fix it,
Mm-hmm.
because I just think that maybe you and I, through our struggles and the fat kid and the drugs and addiction and the love of our family and the confusion, just sometimes we're a little too, maybe some emotions are just still too twisted up and they just got to be stretched out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any wrong way of stretching it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's your life look like today?
Bro, what a ride. What a journey.
Hmm.
I love what I do. I love coaching people. I have my coaching programs called the Hero Project. So I take them through the hero's transformation.
Yeah.
Um, and if I could go back in time and tell the old me what I'm doing now, I would love to get that guy's reaction because it's like a dream. But just like you and I have learned, it's like every single time I get comfortable here, it's like God moves the dot there, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
keep growing and expand. Like the fact that you and I are doing a podcast and I'm not in a lace factory. And like I wish I could go back to the old guy being like, look what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Look how this is happening. But I do get chronic dissatisfaction. Chronic. And so my days are built around about on this entrepreneurial journey and helping others and trying to heal, but at the same time, being the best daddy I can be and being the best boyfriend I can be and trying to not take things too seriously. And Patrick, honestly, I think it depends on the hour that you
Yeah.
get me, that you'll get. Like right now, I'm really, really at him. Like I'm really at him. And my mentor Dion gets that.
Yeah.
Uh, my girl Emily gets that. But sometimes this guy comes out,
Yeah.
and I want to just save the world and keep all those emotions inside. So it's a true integration. It's I don't think you and I can
That's
be.
it right there. That's it right there. I think
I just don't think we can.
no. Um, oh, when all the parts come together and it's like that we finally come home.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
oh gosh.
And bro, by the way, it's also something like this, right? Like, let me give you an example. You may have felt it with technology. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, but let me give you I just found out that it's a new world and you get virtual assistants. And I started realizing that somebody's like looking in my emails. Before this podcast, man, I was burned up. And then I get to be with you.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like, how the hell did you and I really get here?
Right.
The real Adam comes back, and that's a very healing thing for me. That's a very healing thing,
Yeah.
because I love to take a little molehill and make it into a huge mountain. I'm so good at making myself worried over bullshit.
Mhm.
Like I'm an expert at it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, well, so the perfect segue here to something that relates. um, okay, so I feel like I'll tell you this about myself. I love stories. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like who doesn't love a good story? But for me, early in recovery, I had a really hard time. I'm not a great reader. I mean, I can read just fine. My brain doesn't love to read. Like I'll read a whole page and I don't know what I mean, like I couldn't tell you what I just read about, And so doing what I needed to do when I got sober it just wasn't computing for me to go through the big book and all the curriculum and the things that, were being, taught to do. And so the things that would stick for me were when people got up and told their story. It was people telling their stories that saved my ass. It's what got me to buy into the promise of recovery, the possibility of a different life, the ability to say yes one day at a time and not have to know what's and not have to know for sure in 30 years life is going to look a certain way. I literally thought back then, at the beginning, I was like, I'm going to have to believe in order for me to really commit to this. I'm going to have some proof that makes me really believe I will be happy a decade down the road, 20 years down the road, and really be able to function fully without alcohol in order for me to walk away from this treatment center and not want to pick up a can of beer or a bottle of liquor. But it was through hearing other people's stories that changed that for me. So I want to know how has the power of a story, because that's what you just kind of led into, like we came into this sacred space through your story. How has the power of human connection through stories changed your trajectory in life and transformation?
Bro, I'm you. You're me. I'm the 10-year-older version of you. The same. Those people giving that testimony, that story, made me have faith because it didn't have to be blind. I was witnessing it. That kid definitely looks like he did shot heroin. Those earrings are huge. That he's got too many tattoos. This guy is not full of shit. He definitely did all that, and he's sober. Yep. I know this guy. This guy was in the biggest band in the world. He was the drummer of the biggest band in the world. I'm listening to how am I in the room with this guy speaking? No, we're a bunch of nobodies. It's the biggest, but he's sober. I know this guy. This guy's the biggest movie star. He's a superhero. I can't believe he flew down to Florida. He's in the room. He's telling this story. He's sober. I didn't have to have blind faith. It was like God just kept putting me in these rooms and hearing these stories. And one of the things that I kept witnessing, I'm not the only person, but it helped me and it helps me help others, was I kept seeing this arc of a story, right? The arc was, say, separation, right? Then the initiation, and then the return home. I kept seeing it over and over and over. They're sick. They're sick. That everyone's going to go, okay, now we're going to compare a war story. But then there's some form of separation. Treatment, come into the room, but there's right, and then there's
when you talk about go a little deeper into what you mean by separation.
Right, so you're separated. We are separated from this environment and these ideas and these beliefs you were clinging on to. We were separated. For you and I, because I'm going to say like we're twins on this.
Yeah.
We were bought the treatment. We were separated from that environment.
Yeah.
Some people are separated from their lives and go to a room. Some people are separated and go to a hospital. Some people are literally separated in a car accident. But there's some form of separation from what that existence was. There's a separation. There's space now in between it. You're not living that same life. There's a calling. You may not want to answer the call, but you do, and it's something pulling you forward. And then there's this form of like initiation. There's like this. You're learning all these skills. You're learning about steps. You're learning about past childhood trauma. You're learning new skills. You're learning you should pray in the morning. You should meditate. But for movies, you're learning the Force, or you get a thing plugged into you, and you go, I know Kung Fu, or you realize you're not even from this planet, and you're from another planet, and that's why you can do all these amazing. But you're initiated into some new form of life, and then there's this weird. You have to face these dragons and demons of your old life, things you never want to confront before, and then there's this return home where you return and you come back the hero. And I heard this over and over and over again. Every speaker meeting, every speaker tape, every movie I saw, every single person, I would see people, they thought they were normal people. I thought they were heroes. I would just see the best in them. I would turn to a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I didn't know of the hero's journey. I didn't know any of that stuff. This wasn't on my radar. What was on my radar was I need to make sure that these red panties are delivered by June 20th because Victoria's Secret has a major launch. As I got more clean and sober, I started realizing that there's so much to all of it. And, so if it's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, or if it's the 12 steps, or if it's Christ answering the Old Testament with the New Testament, or if it's, Eckhart Tolle, if it's this guy, there's this arc of a story. And when you can find that in your own story,
Mm-hmm.
you start realizing we're like all the same.
Yeah. You're talking about finding worth and value. And I think that's something that we lose, where I think we're all inherently born with, and somehow we start to believe a different lie. And I think the spirituality, the magic, the beautiful transformation happens. The coming home, as you put it, is recognizing that connection.
I
And it
love the
brings,
coming home. I love that part.
yeah, yeah,
That's my favorite part, the coming home. I
mm,
know you and I know so many people where it's like they get the initiation, they take the new skills, and they don't return home. They turn into some egotistical asshole,
yeah,
and for us, I love making it right. I love making it whole. I love that you and
mm,
I are so close to our parents. I
yeah,
love the return.
absolutely. I feel like we also get to do that in micro ways every day as well. You so beautifully put it, like you were in the war zone of your emails earlier, but like that, get coming to this space. I mean, can't we relate to that? So like we get so busy, we get so bogged down. But thank God for commitments like this that we make, and then we get to it, and it's something pulls us to a place where it's like we're forced to be grounded, and like even though we're in two different places, right now physically, like we're both right where our feet are.
Hey,
We're
do you
brought,
remember
we're
the
brought.
thing I was telling you about with Superman's torture, where
Yes.
I was laying here? So I don't know if you really could feel it, but in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, wanting to be in Nashville with you, with all these responsibilities calling me,
Uh-huh.
that was not easy for me.
Oh man.
Isn't that funny? Like, I would
Yeah.
love to be like, hey, I'm a big shot. Hey, but that's not who I am. I was like, I want to be with Patrick. I got to fly out there somehow. I got to figure out how to get. But I got all this stuff going on. And my daughter's doing this. And my son's doing that. But like, and it wasn't people pleasing. It was wanting to be two places at once.
Yeah.
And so what you just said really made me feel good, because we both have our feet under us right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for those of you watching or listening, I want you to remember any moment. This is something that helps me. It's a practice that helps me so much. You hear so many people talk about self-help, um, meditation, this, meditation, that. Like I get really overwhelmed with, everybody talking about their different meditation practices and everything. If you've never done grounding or meditation and you don't know what it is, the simplest practice for me that has really helped so much, and I every time I'm able to do it, this is the most frequent one that I do, is that I look down at my feet and I think of where I am. So like right where my feet are physically is where I am, and what I'm doing is what I'm meant to be doing in this moment. So whoever is listening or watching is meant to be here sharing this space with me and Adam right now on purpose. I truly believe that. And so with that purpose comes worth and value, I truly believe. And I just hope and pray that every single one of you that are tuning in today feel that to its fullest extent. And with that, I just want to ask you, Adam, what parting words of encouragement that you would like to give that person that has connected with your story today, and found some sort of encouragement, promise, or just similarities already, they may still be struggling.
Yeah. So first off, it's really cliche, right? But it's like, keep going one day at a time, one more round at a time, one more prayer at a time, one meditation, one talk at a time. Just keep going, and realize that we're here for you.
Mm.
You and I are doing this it's not a popularity contest. So don't be afraid to DM Patrick, to DM me, to ask for some help or some
That's right.
guide. Like, this is what we do. This is you may be seeing it in a meme or a reel, but that's for you to find us. It's not what we do. So reach out, and we'll help you out.
Ah, I couldn't agree more. And with that, I always close out, and I love this so much because it's such at the core of my heart, and I mean it with all my heart. That no matter what you're facing today, it is never, ever, ever too late to start loving yourself. And you're
Mm.
only ever one decision away from a completely different life. Thank you, Adam, so much for being here today.
Thank you, Pat. Next time in Nashville.
Heck yes.